Excellent. And now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Yuwaraj, who is the Senior Director of Data Science at Loblaw. Thus is a biomedical engineer with an undergraduate degree in engineering science and a master's and PhD in biomedical engineering, all from the University of Toronto. Thus started his career as a principal scientist developing algorithms intended to improve the accuracy of DNA sequencing using foundations from digital communication. He then transitioned to management roles where he led product development within many medical device startups. In this capacity, he took medical devices from laboratory concepts to commercial devices. He is passionate about taking a patient-centric approach to product design, and at Loblaw, he is leading an R&D team within the health data products and service groups, where his team focuses on exploring innovative uses of health data to help Canadians live life well. Please join me in welcoming Thas.
Thank you kindly, Melissa. Just as a quick check, as I can never assume, I hope my audio is coming through okay.
Your audio is
And
great.
going to be starting my video momentarily, and hopefully with minimum surprises. Great. Is my screen visible?
It is visible. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm seeing a vertical strip of the presenters on the right side. I hope it's not obstructing the view for the audience here.
No, it's all good.
Fantastic, fantastic. Great. So let me just do a quick switch over. Perfect. And so, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. It is afternoon now. And what an honor and a pleasure to be here, and obviously sharing this podium with Brandon as well prior to this. And so, what I thought was, could I maybe take a slightly different angle, but still talk about generally the same topic? That is how at Loblaw we are embracing data science in particular, to pursue our overall, I would say, the purpose, which is actually a publicly stated purpose of helping Canadians live life well. And that's where I thought, okay, why not frame that same purpose statement, but from a data perspective, a data angle, and walk you through it. And to get to this point, basically, if we take a look at overall the mission or the purpose of the company, we try to achieve this by actually impacting Canadians every day in every part of our lives. So to start with, we impact and support how our customers meet their day-to-day grocery needs, their lifestyle needs, health and wellness needs as well. And this is done not because of a single brand or a pillar. Instead, as most of you may or may not know, Loblaw is actually a collection of many brands and banners. Some you probably go through almost on a daily basis or weekly basis. Some you consume as a brand as well. And it is through these multiple touch points we try to impact Canadians' lives every day. And that's sort of the general framework I thought I could kind of give as a backdrop to kind of get into maybe a specific vertical, if you will, an intersection of a particular type of service that pans across many of the brands you're seeing on the screen and many of the banners that you're seeing on the screen as well. And that is the one where we consider as our flagship health and wellness service. And that's provided to customers through our pharmacy services. And so why is this a data problem? So what I thought was, maybe I'll spend a few minutes kind of talking about where the data play comes in here, right? So if we take foundationally one of the biggest services our pharmacists provide beyond merely filling a prescription is known as med reviews or medication reviews. On an annual basis, we provide over 800,000 medication reviews, and these reviews help a pharmacist review a patient's plethora of medication and look for potential mismatches, potential side effects, potential drug-drug interactions, and elevate and educate that incidents or potential incident with the patient. And what that leads to is the pharmacist can then start a conversation between the patient and the doctor and act as a conduit to enable this conversation, particularly for patients who are on multiple medications. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect, we all go get our flu vaccines, COVID vaccines as well, and we disseminate a number of those vaccines. And one could easily ask the question, are we approaching the right patient cohort, the right age demographies to deliver this service? How do we answer that question? And if I take another step back, if I look at the total population that we cater to who come through our pharmacies, that's about 14 million patients, and we have an army of around 5,000 healthcare professionals. One can ask the question, how do we use data to arm and enable our healthcare professionals so that they can best meet the health and wellness needs of these patients who come through our doors? So our intent here is to use data science, AI, ML as an enabler to provide this key front door first point of intersection service from a health and wellness perspective. That's the general kind of a angle I thought I could kind of frame this whole thing. And if you look at this volume of data from patient population point of view, from the plethora of medications we dispense, it too is a big data problem. Now, clearly not to the volumes that Brandon talked about in the context of RNA. However, it allows us to ask what I like to call big, hairy, audacious challenges. And this could be, say, for example, armed with this data, how may we empower our customers manage their health better? Remember, it is the health status that is as important as the improvement in the disease status. Health status is where you're not a patient yet, but instead is able to be in that pre-disease state. How can we enable the Canadians to be in that state better? And for those patients who are particularly, say, afflicted by chronic diseases, how can we empower these patients with the chronic diseases manage their disease better? Because chronic disease, by definition, is with the patient over a prolonged period, which means can we improve the quality of their lives by providing appropriate services, information that helps them manage that disease better. So these are what I would like to call as the big, hairy, audacious challenges. And the rest of the talk, I will try to structure it by giving you a teaser of the type of data and insights we are seeing with our patient population. And then more importantly, what's important for this audience is how are we structured as a team to deliver on it, much like what Brandon was talking about. And then if we are structured, what are some key skill sets that we could share with you that would be vital to step into this challenge of using data science, AI, ML in the healthcare space? Okay, so that's my goal here. And so if I look at, say, for example, this data context, what I'm going to do is just use 3 slides. You all have probably seen enough data, enough models to last you a lifetime. So what I'm going to do is just take a 3-layered approach at different levels of granularity to show you what data means to us in Loblaw. Let me take the highest level, which is population health. So what I'm showing on the left side here is prevalence of a chronic disease as captured by StatsCan. This is the statistics we all complete every year. I hope we all do. And StatsCan then publishes, in this case through a geospatial explorer, the prevalence of a particular chronic disease. we can juxtapose that with data that we have internal to Loblaw to look at prevalence as well. Why? Because we know the population that come through our doors every day to purchase prescription medication that is targeted towards specific chronic disease, and we can project our view of prevalence because we have over 2,000 stores across Canada. The one statement we always like to make is we are 10 minutes we are within 10 minutes of 90% of Canadians. So we have that many stores pan Canadian, which allows us to see purchasing patterns. And here I'm showing a transactional view of the same region as seen from our data set. And clearly, they don't quite match up exactly, but that's a good thing. It allows us to ask questions about, are we dealing with data quality issue? Are we catering to the right population? Do we have the right services to cater to what we know should be the truth as measured by StatsCan? And how does that juxtapose against what we are seeing through our doors, right? So that is at a population health level. Then, if I go one level down and ask the question, across our patient population, what does the medication intake look like if I were to group the medications into classes of drugs for a specific chronic disease? In this case, as you can see the name metformin up there, it's the chronic disease diabetes. And we can see year over year what is the trend like for intake or prescription for the first time for patients who are getting into diabetic medication, and see what does the year over year trend look like. And why is that important? It's important because this is a foundational model we can build to answer more patient specific question. So if I take my previous two data and then bring it down to one more level of granularity, which is down to a unique patient, I can ask the question based on demographic information, prior comorbidities, gender, age, biometrics, can we develop a machine learned system which can predict an appropriate drug class for a given patient? So now what you're moving towards is being able to come up with an ability to gauge, is this patient on the right medication class? But remember, I intentionally phrased my question this way because what we are trying to do here is to build a clinical decision support system. We are not building a clinical decision system. Let me pause there. There's an important distinction here. What we're trying to do is not replace the pharmacist and the healthcare professional. Instead, arm them with a lot more information that is actionable so that they do their job better, easily provide their services to a broader group. And that's the key distinction of a clinical decision support system. And I want to kind of dwell on this a little bit because, one, as a medical device professional, it's near and dear to me, that philosophy. But the second aspect is when building medical devices, and yes, an AI ML is, if it's catering to a solving a health issue, it is a medical device because most regulatory agencies define such systems as software as a medical device. So that's why you'll see me using or hear me use the word or phrase medical device here. It's important to balance between the benefit the system provides and the risk the system poses. And that balance is a key regulatory decision in approving or not approving medical devices. So that's why there's a tactical and a strategic advantage in pursuing a clinical decision support system as we put forward such solutions within our framework as well. This is as far as I want to go from data and modeling point of view, and kind of now kind of take another step at how do we deliver this. And much like what Brandon explained as well, it is indeed, I like to call it a team of teams sport, not just a team sport. And I thought I'll illustrate that with one example. You know, how may we recommend classes of drugs for diabetic treatment or treatment of diabetes patients, particularly the first time treatment? To answer this, you definitely need domain knowledge, and that's where we can appropriately craft measurable health outcomes. So that very first top expertise comes in from the point of view of domain expertise in healthcare. If you have an undergraduate degree in life sciences, in cellular modeling, all of that is immensely valuable, cellular signaling to be precise. Another aspect of it is, what is the business relevance of solving this? Yes, we are solving a healthcare problem. However, it has to make business meaning to pursue it as well and to sustain it. So the business angle is as important, and it's an integral part of defining the problem, not the solution, but the problem itself. Once you have those two expertise come in, then you need this valuable triad of expertise. One around security, that is, how do we make sure this health data, which is protected health information under law, is protected appropriately in our models, in our solutions. That's the security angle. Consent is, are we using the data as it was intended by the patient who or whoever is the owner of the data. So there's an important privacy consent angle that cannot be ignored and has to be baked into solutioning as well. And lastly, how do we govern this data appropriately as we go through our exploration, development, and deployment? So that's that magic triad I talked about. Then, as you look at production, one has to consider scalability. I cannot come up with an R&D proof of concept and throw it over the fence for that to be scaled. I have to be mindful of scalability of the solution as well. We have over 2,000 stores. Can we scale the solution across the stores? Last but not least, I touched on this in the previous slide, again near and dear to my heart, is compliance, but compliance in the regulatory sense. Are we building a medical device here? And if the answer is yes, are we building it under the right controls that need to be in place to build a safe and effective medical device? And that is also baked into our solutioning process as well. And like most companies, we realize this by operating in almost a pod or a multidisciplinary team. So clearly the data scientist and the AI expert is there, no doubt. But there is also the role of a data engineer who brings in the data. There is the concept of a data science lead who ensures there is consistent practice across multiple projects, multiple pods. Then you also need a technical lead to come in to advise on the use of the right tools to scale this problem, and that's where the technical advisors come into each of the pods. Last but not least is the concept of a program manager or a product manager who is the bridge between the technical team and the business team and the patients. And that keeps us real. That's an important role that's played, and it brings about a sense of reality to the problems that we solve as well. So that's a quick description of how we kind of operate as a team. The mode of operation is very much baked in from the concept of design thinking. So design thinking is where the patient, the end user, the stakeholder is an integral part of the whole iteration, and that's precisely how we operate. Starting with the problem statement, we sit with our business partners who are within the Loblaw entity, such as the business units that run Shoppers Drug Mart, and try to distill the problem statement that's meaningful. We might develop early insights, early models, which may be purely heuristic models or purely a business insight output, but that's still actionable. That can serve itself as a proof of concept for running a pilot study perhaps. And then we assess, is there value in bringing in additional data, internal data and external data, to enrich the model? And you rinse, repeat that cycle. That iterative model allows us to get a product out there to the customer sooner, yet evolve with time. As you can guess, it has its own challenges, if you will, from everything from the extreme AI end on model drift to practical aspects. As you add data, one has to be mindful of the consent language that was originally used to bring the data into the problem. Is it appropriately consented? Is it sitting across data silos? How do we then bring that in? Can we use technologies such as federated learning to enable this kind of cross-bridging and cross-silo use of data are real problems we are dealing with and grappling with today. And that's the approach the R&D team takes to bring about the proof of concepts. And there are team members today you can network with who are tasked with enabling these proof of concepts into full-blown solutions as well. And it is at that point it reaches the end customers, the end users. And that's so I've basically taken a path from a snippet or a sneak peek into the data that we work with, to the big, hairy, audacious challenges we are solving, to how we are structuring the team. And I hope that gives you a glimpse into how best to position yourself to come into the industry to make a difference today. And then I thought I will kind of close the presentation there with one parting slide, and that is, if you sit back and ask, how do I position myself best to solve these problems in the industry, at Loblaw for sure, I hope it's Loblaw, but in companies across the board, I thought of sort of three things that I can leave you with. Think of them as the three legs of a stool uh, that are foundational to make a real difference in the field of AI and ML specific to health. One, first and foremost, is domain know-how. Do I understand my patient? That's the domain know-how. Do I understand the diseases I'm working with? Can I empathize? This is a foundational piece of design thinking. Can I empathize with the patient and the care provider who is helping the patient? That's what we wrap up under domain knowledge. Then we are dealing with multifaceted data here, and it's a system problem, which means, can you take a systems engineering role, a system level view to solving this problem, and not dive too deep into a narrow vertical? That is ever so important in healthcare. Be aware, educate yourself on privacy implications, on software as a medical device regulations. All of these come together, and it's the confluence that is vital for developing innovative solutions. Last but not least, one might easily brush this away as a soft skill, but I'm very picky about it. It is the art of storytelling. So remember, in domain knowledge, you're asking the question, can I understand the patient, the end user, the stakeholder? Storytelling is the fine art of, can I communicate, not talk to, but communicate with my stakeholder? Can I be the bridge that bridges the gap, the chasm between AI, ML, data science, and the end user? So if you can be mindful of these three legs of a stool, think about how you are enriching your experience to strengthen each of these legs. That is going to be ever so vital to position yourself well as well. I will leave the slide here and wrap up at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Thas, and thank you for that last piece of advice. We have time for just two very quick questions before the panel. A question from Miki. Is the result generated from the clinical decision support system shared with both the healthcare professionals that you spoke of, or with the patients, or both? And how is that sort of sharing managed?
Sure. What I shared there is largely a framework. It depends on the specific disease in terms of how we surface that information. So in some cases, it is shared only with the pharmacist, because the pharmacist is the professional who knows best how to deliver that information to the patient. If it is a nudge, say for example, we know, for example, if compliance to disease adherence, disease medication adherence is an important aspect, we could provide that nudge to go and get the refill directly to the patient through an app. So PC Health, for example, is an app that acts as an interface between our systems and the patient. So depending on the message and the intent, it can be with the professional, can be directly to the patient, and this is where the medical device regulation comes in. That dictates where and how we can approach the patient population as well.
Excellent. And final question. I do my grocery shopping at Loblaw, so you see everything that I purchase, I'm sure. Do you, with managing chronic disease, obviously diet and nutrition are critically important. Have you linked any of the data on food purchases and chronic disease and looked at some models to enable customers to make better choices at the store?
Oh, this is absolutely the biggest piece that makes Loblaw the right entity to pursue this bigger, hairy, audacious challenge. Simply because you're right. If you connect the thread, you can connect all the way from grocery patterns to prescription. There's a piece that's missing, which is hospitalization, which is health outcome. But however, these are the vital connectors, and you're spot on. That connection is golden. We are starting to embark in that journey. Clearly, we have to be mindful of sensitivities around consent and privacy as we bridge the gaps. And these are different data silos, even though they live under one corporate entity, and being able to manage appropriate use of data across silos are first foundational pieces we are trying to solve before we get into the overall matching and prediction aspects of it. But yeah, spot on.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insightful presentation.